You ever have one of those moments where your whole world just stops? Like someone hit pause on reality, and for a second, you're just floating, disconnected from everything you thought was real? That was me, sitting on the edge of our bed, holding my wife's diary in my hands, reading words that burned straight through me. She thought I'd never find it. Tucked away in the bottom drawer of her nightstand, under a pile of old receipts and a couple of random papers. Almost like she wanted it hidden, but not too hidden. Like some part of her wanted me to find it. And now, here I am. I don't even know why I opened it at first. Maybe boredom, maybe curiosity, maybe some deep down, gut-level instinct told me something was wrong. But the second I flipped to the first page and saw his name, Jason, my stomach sank. I kept reading. I can't stop thinking about last night. The way he touched me. The way he makes me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years. I know it's wrong, but with him, I don't care. When I'm with him, I forget about everything else. That was the first entry that made my blood run cold. But it was far from the last. Page after page, she spilled everything. How long it had been going on. How she'd meet him after running errands. How she'd tell me she was at a friend's house when she was actually in his car, in some motel, in his goddamn apartment. And the worst part? The way she talked about me. He's a good man, but he's just there. Predictable. Safe. I don't want safe. I want Jason. I sat there, gripping that diary so tight my knuckles turned white. My heart was hammering, my breath coming short and fast, like I'd just run a marathon. I wasn't even angry at first. I was just shocked, numb. This was the woman I built a life with, the woman I swore to love and protect. And she was out there, writing about another man like a lovesick teenager while I worked my ass off to give her everything she ever wanted. I closed the diary, set it down on the bed beside me, stared at the wall, trying to process it all. But the numbness didn't last long. No, the rage started bubbling up, slow at first, then fast. A wildfire spreading through my chest, burning hotter with every second. She thought I'd never find it? Well, guess what? I did. And she was about to find out exactly what that meant. I don't remember standing up. 1 second, I was sitting there, staring at that goddamn diary, and the next, I was moving. Fast. My heart pounded in my ears. My breath came in sharp bursts. My hands were shaking, not with fear. No, with something deeper. Something primal. I grabbed my phone off the nightstand and scrolled through our texts. Just 2 hours ago, she had messaged me. Wife. Hey babe, running errands, probably gonna be a little late. Love you. Right. Errands. I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth would crack. I threw on my jacket, shoved the diary into my pocket, and walked out the door. I knew exactly where to go. She wasn't creative. The diary had spelled it all out. Times, locations, even little details about how Jason liked his coffee, as if that mattered. As if I gave a damn. I had every clue I needed to know where she was. Her car was easy to spot. Parked outside a cheap motel off the highway, tucked near the back, but not too far back. Like she wasn't even trying that hard to hide. Or maybe she thought I was just too blind, too trusting, too safe to ever notice. I pulled up beside it, killed the engine, and sat there for a second, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I could feel the heat of my rage crawling up my spine, into my skull, behind my eyes. My breathing was sharp, controlled, but inside, I was boiling. I stepped out. The air was cold, crisp, but I barely felt it. Every part of me was locked onto them. Room 214. Second floor. The lights were on. I took the stairs 2 at a time. My footsteps were solid, deliberate. I wanted her to hear me coming. I wanted her to feel that moment of panic when she realized. I reached the door. Paused. I could hear them inside. Laughter. Her laughter. The same laugh that used to be just for me. The same soft, sweet sound that used to make me think of home. And then, his voice. Low, cocky, like he had nothing to worry about. That was it. I kicked the door open. The cheap lock didn't stand a chance. It slammed against the wall, rattling the whole room. She screamed. He jumped back, half naked, scrambling to cover himself like some scared little boy. And my wife? She went pale, like all the blood had drained from her face in an instant. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I stepped inside, slow, deliberate. I let the silence stretch, let them feel it. Then, I pulled the diary from my pocket and threw it onto the bed between them. Read it, I said. My voice was calm, too calm. She didn't move. Read. It. She flinched, picked it up with shaking hands, flipped through the pages, like she needed to confirm what she already knew. Jason, this sorry excuse for a man, was standing there, frozen. He looked between me and her, like he was waiting for her to explain, to save him. But she couldn't, because there was nothing to say. I let the silence drag for a few more seconds, just to watch them squirm. Then, I stepped closer, looked him dead in the eyes. You have 10 seconds to get out, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated. Big mistake. I took another step. 5. That got him moving. He scrambled for his pants, practically falling over himself as he rushed out the door. Didn't even look back. Coward. And then it was just me and her. She finally looked up at me, her eyes glossy with tears. I can expla. No, you can't. My voice was cold, final, and I meant it, because there was nothing left to explain. She had written it all down herself. She just sat there, clutching that diary like it was some kind of lifeline. Like maybe, just maybe, if she held on to it tight enough, she could somehow erase everything inside. I stared at her. She stared back, eyes wide, full of that fake regret, that useless, too late kind of fear. She opened her mouth again. Please, Shut up. She flinched. I took a slow breath. I needed to stay in control, but my whole body was coiled tight, like a spring ready to snap. You don't get to talk, I said. Not after what you wrote in there. I nodded at the diary. Go on. Read me your favorite part. She blinked. What? I stepped forward. She tensed. You wrote it, I said. So read it. Tell me all about how he makes you feel alive. How you forget about everything else when you're with him. Her hands tightened around the pages. Go on. My voice was low, dangerous. Say it out loud. Her lip trembled. She shook her head. That's what I thought. I let the silence stretch between us, let her sit there and stew in it. She wanted to be brave enough to write it down. But now? Now she couldn't even look me in the eye. Pathetic. Finally, she whispered, I'm sorry. I laughed. Actually laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. Sorry? I repeated. You're sorry? She nodded, eyes watering, her whole body practically curling in on itself like some wounded animal. I should have felt something. Sadness. Maybe even pity. But all I felt was disgust. You're not sorry you did it, I said. You're sorry you got caught. She opened her mouth again, but I was done. I turned and walked toward the door. That's when she lunged forward, grabbing at my arm. Wait, please. We can fix this. I was stupid. I wasn't thinking. I ripped my arm free so fast she almost fell. You wrote about it for months. My voice was sharp, cutting through her words like a blade. You were thinking plenty. She went quiet. I looked at her one last time. The woman I had loved, trusted, built a whole life with. And now? She just looked small, weak, like a stranger. Then I walked out. I heard her sob as the door shut behind me, but I didn't stop. I never looked back. I walked out of that motel and into the cold night air, but the heat in my chest was still there, still burning. I didn't go home. Not yet. I couldn't. That house didn't feel like mine anymore. Every room, every piece of furniture, every stupid little framed picture on the wall, it was all tainted, polluted by her, by what she'd done. So I drove. Nowhere in particular. Just drove. Windows down, wind cutting through me, but I barely felt it. My mind was spinning, replaying every moment, every lie. Every time she looked me in the eyes and told me she loved me while she was out there with him. That's what got me the most. Not the act itself. Not the fact that she'd slept with him or written about him like some love-struck teenager. No, what gutted me was the betrayal. The way she had pretended. The way she had smiled at me, kissed me, let me hold her, like nothing was wrong. Like I was just some backup plan she could fall back on when she was done playing house with Jason. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Not anymore. She lost that privilege the second she let him touch her. Eventually, I pulled into a parking lot. Some empty strip mall, lights buzzing, not a soul around. I sat there, staring at nothing, just letting it sink in. And that's when my phone rang. Her. I let it go to voicemail. A second later, another call, then another. I sighed, finally picking up. What? Her voice was frantic, desperate. Please come home. We need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. Please, I messed up, I know that, but we can fix this. We have to. I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. Why? Silence. Then, because I love you. I almost laughed. Almost. No, I said, voice flat. You don't. I do, she insisted. I got lost. I made a mistake, but it didn't mean anything. I swear it was just... Stop. She sucked in a shaky breath. I exhaled, forcing my voice to stay calm. You wrote about him. In detail. You said I was safe. You said you didn't want safe. So tell me, was it worth it? She was quiet. Was he worth losing me? The silence stretched, and that was my answer. I hung up, blocked her number. Then, without another word, I drove home. Not to our home. Not anymore. I packed my bags that night. Took only what was mine, left the rest. She could keep the house, the memories, the empty shell of the life she had burned to the ground. And when I walked out for the last time, I didn't look back. Not once. Because I wasn't the one who had lost everything. She was.